What's going on, everybody? Welcome back if you've been here before. This is not a gameplay video, which I have done exclusively since my 6-month sick leave because my vestibular system shut down. Coming back, we've just been doing gameplay videos because that is the spine, that's the entire base of this channel. That's what we do. We focus mostly on modern. We do pre-modern now. If you want to see a ton of that, become a patron, link in the description. It's in the description. I had to point down for that one. There we go. But it's been all gameplay up to this point. So today, we're going to be talking about a deck in the format we care about the most, modern. I brought Travis in. I don't know if this video comes out before. I think I actually might do this video before dropping the series.
Okay.
So we recorded the games first, so those are coming out, or they've already come out. They're probably coming out though, because this is going to be a quicker edit, I think. But this is Mardu Energy, which is like an offshoot of the Boros Energy deck that we've seen.
Yeah.
And today we're going to do idea Travis had, which is, I guess it's not totally original, but it's like we're going to do a deck tech, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper than just talking about every single little card in the deck and go into more about why the selections are made, maybe some of the potential play patterns, sideboard considerations, and just how each card functions in the deck is what we're doing. I'm just here as a mediator / the guy who owns the studio. Travis is going to do most of the talking because I know how the deck works, but he is the person who can play it well. I just kind of lose to it a bunch is how it works for me. So Travis, first of all, I guess I'll kind of guide you too, since we're doing this podcast style. We don't have a huge script. We just lightly know what we're going to be talking about. I guess the first big thing I have for you is a question, which is like, if we're talking about this in the context of post-Nadu.
Yeah.
Because Nadu is, we're all over it. Everyone's 98% sure the bird's getting the axe, or I guess the other thing they could do is ban the other 10 cards the deck plays, but bird's getting the axe. So we're looking at a post-Nadu world, sideboard and 60. Why would we want to play Mardu Energy?
Yeah, the reason you want to play just red, white, X energy in general is because this pile of cards are... these are all very good. The red white energy package is just very, very, very good. Post Nadu ban, you can play like quite a lot of like a more mid-range style and just kind of slow down your deck a little bit.
Because you're not going to die to a solitaire game turn 3.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you can slow down your deck a little bit and be able to play things like Ob Nixilis, and we'll get to that eventually. But you can kind of slow down a little bit. The red white energy shell itself is like incredibly proactive. So you're not just like constantly reacting to what everybody's doing, which is like a great play style, and trust me, I love it. But being proactive and putting people on the back foot is like something that this deck does incredibly well.
Yeah, very cool. So that seems like a solid reason to play it. But hey, man, what is Mardu Energy? Let's go ahead and like the first thing I think we should do is like go through the list of cards and just kind of like maybe talk a little bit about the packages and stuff. But I think we should get the list in front of people before we start diving into details about like matchups and stuff.
For sure. So just general list, you will see all the way over just here in general. There is just a bunch of...
They won't be looking at this for long because I'm going to do some edits, but yeah.
All right. So just the list in general is the red, white, X energy decks just all have this core... What is this, 20 cards, 23 cards?
Yeah.
There's like 20 to 25 cards that basically every red, white, X energy deck will be playing. Galvanic Discharge is just the best removal spell in modern. Amped Raptor is just a crazy 2-for-1. Godless is probably the best one drop in modern.
And these cards here that you just listed are the only cards in the red white shell. There's some black stuff that cares about energy, but these are the cards that actually like produce and consume energy in the deck for the most part.
Correct. Yeah.
Everything else like works with the energy, but doesn't necessarily like do energy stuff. It just synergizes with what you're already doing.
Right. Those are the red, white energy cards at the very least. Godless crazy good. It makes energy and it spends energy.
You know what's messed up? Like Godless, of the 1-drops that you can play in both Boros Energy and Mardu Energy, here you've really only got Godless and Ocelot Pride, which we'll talk about in a moment. But the Boros deck also plays Ragavan for the turn 2 Blood Boons and stuff. And a lot of people panic the most about the other two, Ocelot Pride and Ragavan.
Yeah.
But usually after a couple turns have gone by, you realize the card you should have panic removed ended up being the Guide of Souls.
Right, because Godless actually enables the Ocelot Pride. So like moving on past the energy cards, you've got Ocelot Pride and Ajani. Ocelot Pride is not a good card by itself.
No.
Like if you're just like playing an Ocelot Pride, it's not very good.
It doesn't do anything.
Yeah,
it's like
you like have to attack to be able to trigger it and do all this other stuff. But you stare at Guide of Souls, which gains life, so then you're gonna guarantee get your trigger, and you're staring at Ajani. Ajani is like a huge reason why I think Ocelot Pride is good.
Also, Ocelot Pride's a cat, so Ajani cares about that.
So when you're staring at like Ocelot Pride, they're going to end step. They just played an Ajani. They've somehow gained life this turn. So now you have to kill the Ocelot Pride before they get to their end step, or they're going to make an extra Ajani token. They're going to make like a bunch of 1/1s. They're going to possibly make an Ob copy, like whatever may be happening coming up at the end step. You have to kill the Ocelot Pride, but also they get their Ajani flipped, which is like what they want to be doing. So it's like you're just like staring at this like impossible scenario of I have to deal with 2 cards at the same time, and it's just not. And that's what like makes red white energy have this like red white X energy have this like mid-rangey style rather than just being like, oh, here's 30 creatures.
Here's a 1-drop, a 2-drop, attack, yeah.
Right. And then Phlage is just modern breakout for Modern Horizons.
Every deck that can reliably escape it is playing 2 to 3 copies. Yeah, it's just very good.
The card's just incredible.
If you've been following the channel for a while, you've seen a lot of escape Phlages with Arena of Glory, which isn't this deck. We'll get to it in a little bit. But it ends the game so quickly, and even in other decks like Jessica Energy, it stabilizes the game very frequently as well. So it's just insane.
Yeah, one of the things with like 3-color decks in Modern for a very long time, especially with Thoughtseize in your deck, you're just like fetch shock, Thoughtseize, fetch shock, player 2-drop, fetch shock, player 3-drop, and it's like, oh, this sucks, I'm at 11.
Yeah, exactly.
But with Goddess Souls and Phlage, like a lot of the games that you win with this deck, you're at like 25 at the end of the game, even though you fetch shocked every single turn. So
yeah,
you've
like, probably spent 10 life, but you gained 20, so who cares?
Right, yeah. So it's crazy.
But then so that's like all the cards we just listed so far are like very much both the Boros and Mardu energy decks have these in common. This is what we call the shell of the deck.
Yeah, the energy shell.
Yeah,
like
but you've got,
shell.
I'm counting here 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 cards that kind of like give you the flavor of Mardu energy, which does separate like the game plan quite a bit from the original Boros deck.
For sure. The reason to play Mardu is because you get much more power in your deck. And basically, like, you play red white if you think Blood Moon's going to be good. Like Witch and Bite, it might just be the choice. But if you just want to be better overall and just have more power in your deck,
just literally
you
have
play
a
the
higher
black
power
card.
level deck.
On average, your cards are so much better in this deck than they are in the Boros deck because you just have to play some like goofy additions that don't line up very well.
Yeah.
Starting off with Thoughtseize, if you're a good Thoughtseize caster, you understand Thoughtseize. But if you've like kind of maybe not casted a ton, or maybe like you've casted and then you still died, like you don't understand Thoughtseize. But like Thoughtseize is one of the best cards in Magic ever.
A lot of newer players see Thoughtseize, and like when I was brand new, Thoughtseize had already been out. I didn't really get it. It seemed weird to me. But I think you can kind of gauge how good you're getting at Magic, because once you cross that threshold into realizing just how good Thoughtseize is, and you kind of realize it before you really know how to cast it. Most people get good at casting Thoughtseize by having a good opponent Thoughtseize them correctly a couple times, and they start to go, oh, this person's thinking about like 2 turns from now, like what's going to happen. And then it usually, a lot of games you lost because of Thoughtseize. You don't know it yet if you're not sure, but give it a couple of weeks of playing FNMs, you'll find out that Thoughtseize just kills you.
Thoughtseize was actually getting reprinted in the first set that I started playing in. I started playing in Theros.
Yeah.
And it got reprinted, and everybody around me was like freaking out, like, oh my God, Thoughtseize. And I was just like, this card sucks.
Yeah. Nope. It might be the main reason to be in black. Like there's other reasons, but this is huge.
No, Thoughteize is like crazy good because like the way that you combat the energy decks is with sweepers, and like the red white deck doesn't have good answers to sweepers. Like they just kind of fall over to them. This deck, like you extend and then you Thoughtseize and take their sweeper, and then you just absolutely crush them.
Yeah, this deck usually doesn't open on Thoughtseize unless you had like a strong 7, but you like don't reasonably want to extend your 1-drop too early. So you like open on Thoughtseize, deal with their answer, play a Ajani, and that's a play pattern that comes up.
On the play, if your play can be like Goddess Souls turn 1 into like turn 2 Thoughtseize Ocelot Pride, you're probably gonna win.
You're just gonna win that game. Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah, it's probably game over. But yeah, like Thoughtseize, one of just the best black cards of all time. It's just absolutely incredible. Once you actually like start learning how to cast Thoughtseize, you just want to put it in every deck.
Agree. Yeah, hard agree.
Moving on from that, the red white deck has Static Prison as its like good 1-drop removal spell of like I can remove basically anything. Fatal Push is like just as good in the current meta, except for a very specifically Murktide region.
Yeah, I think Post-Nadu, which is what we're talking about, you are going to maybe want to play some Static Prisons just because like we actually, I don't know, it's probably not out yet, but it'll be coming out. I think it's the first video we do, which is Dimmer Murktide, which is I think the best flavor and my personal favorite flavor of Murktide, and versus this deck, which is an interesting enough matchup. I think you probably have an edge, but the Murktide deck does have the tools to win it.
Yeah, for sure.
Fatal Push is quite poor there. It does deal with the frog, but in your current situation, it can be the one Fell the Profane can be helpful. The Murktide decks play 4 of that card, and they can reliably make it an 8/8. So right now this is better, but like that's one nice thing about the Boros deck is while this is a generically better card, if Murktide is a huge player moving forward in the metagame, a split might be necessary, or maybe like some 1 to 2 sideboard slots as well could be fine. But this card, generically better. Thoughtseize, or Fatal Push, that is.
There's also some like general, like, I can't deal with the 1 ring in game 1 unless I'm Bowmastering, but I like can't get it out of play. I can't get rid of Giant Eldrazi and stuff like that, but we'll talk about that later. But in general, this deck is better at grinding, so like you don't really care about having to deal with like big, like huge 1 ring Murktide, stuff like that. Like unless the Murktide is played on like turn 3, you're probably so far ahead like in the game that you don't really like great. You have an 8/8 flyer.
You just attack through it, lose one of your blockers, they take 8 or something.
This is another scenario where like you have to play your Thoughtseize as well, because if you're staring at like I only have like a couple creatures and I'm going to be like kind of small idiot but impactful idiot tribal, you have to take Murktide with Thoughtseize. Like that's just, it's like one of the scenarios where like your Thoughtseizes have to be good.
Worst player might like panic, take a counterspell or a fatal push when that's not really the thing that's going to like affect the end outcome of the game after a couple turns have passed.
For sure. Yeah, and I just think fatal push is just really good in Modern right now. There's like creature removal is just very good in Modern right now.
Also, you happen to have the FNM promos, which makes it a little bit better.
Yeah, true.
Very good.
I don't have FNM promo static for
Yeah, exactly.
Then moving on from that, we got 4 Orcish Bowmaster as like a black card. Like there's like if you're playing black, you're playing Orcish Bowmaster.
Who doesn't love Orcish Bowmaster?
Like one of the big things, you know, like everybody's like, oh, the One Ring, it's all over the place. Guess what? Here's the answer to the One Ring. Like draw your cards, take 1 million. You're also going to take 1 million on your upkeep. Like, I don't care.
Orcish Bowmaster also is very helpful in other ways. Like if you're playing against Boros, if you don't get exactly Blood Moon, cards like Orcish Bowmasters can take out the Boros version of the deck's Amped Raptors and their Ocelot Prides, and that is huge game because then the Bowmaster puts 2 power into play, so you can get tricky and like put 2 in front of an Ajani if your opponent's tapped out, and then you were losing, now you're all of a sudden winning. And Orcish Bowmaster, like you said, like One Ring, huge. People are casting Preordains. Frog is probably going to be, it's good now, it's going to be bad. Like one of the biggest problems with Frog is it's not that good in the Nadu decks. Post-Nadu, I think like that's going to be one of like the 4 or 5 tier 1 decks is going to be that, and this is phenomenal there. It's just insane.
It's also like part of the reason why the Mardu deck is allowed to like kind of slow down and play this mid-range plan, because instead of extending into a board wipe, you just like hold up your Orcish Bowmaster, they board wipe you, and you're just like, hiya, like,
take one. I've got a 2 power.
I got 2 dinguses in play. Speaking of 2 dinguses, the relevant part of having all these, like, so I've got Ajani's, I've got the Orcish Bowmasters, Amped Raptor sometime in 2 for 1, which is just fantastic to flood the board.
Ocelot Pride also makes extra bodies because we're talking about
Chthonian Nightmare.
Yeah, that card, that's my favorite card in this deck.
So Chthonian Nightmare is like absolutely absurd in this deck. Besides the very obvious, I can sack a cat to flip my Ajani. You just like sack Orc Army because it normally doesn't matter. Bring back like literally anything. Everything's better than Orc Army in this deck. Just literally bringing back a Phlage to like deal 3, gain 3. You bring back like stuff with Guided Souls in play just to make energy. If you bring back an Amped Raptor, it doesn't like do the cascade thing, but you just get 2 free energy.
It's absurd.
You sit there and just like loop. There are turns where you can cast Chthonian Nightmare 3 times and get 3 very impactful creatures.
It might happen in the video series we're putting out around the deck.
But the obvious play is like, oh, I have an Ajani in play. You like killed my 1-drop or whatever. I'm gonna play Chthonian Nightmare, sack my cat token from Ajani, flip my Ajani, get my 1-drop back. You know, do stuff like that. It's a Chthonian Nightmare is just this like crazy good mid-range / late game thing where you just like play it 3 times in a turn and just go nuts.
Yeah, for anyone who does, this is not so relevant to the deck explanation itself. But Chthonian Nightmare is a fixed reprint of an old card called Recurring Nightmare. It'll come up because pre-modern there's a deck called The Rock that plays the crap out of that card. So, but I don't know if they tried to like nerf it or make it better. But I've played a lot of Recurring Nightmare. Strictly better, like in every thinkable way, as long as your deck's doing energy stuff. So
yeah, I mean, it doesn't let you just turn 3, put a Grizzlebrand in play.
Right. But in the format that Recurring Nightmare is legal in, you can't do that anyway because Grizzlebrand's not. So what can you do? And I'm seeing there's exactly one more card that's spicy. It's kind of new to this style of deck. You see it more now, but like a few weeks ago you didn't. It's Ob Nixilis.
Yeah. So Ob Nixilis is like, surface level is just a very good mid-range card, right? Like if you sacrifice like even a Guided Souls or like an Amped Raptor or a Bowmaster to it, just like playing a fair matchup where they have a bunch of counter spells and you go, I'm gonna sacrifice this now useless creature, put 2 Planeswalkers on the stack, and you probably only have 1 counter spell unless you want to discard a bunch of cards. Spoiler alert. Which is just like fine with the Mardu player. If you're going to discard like to force or subtlety or whatever the token and then also counterspell the Ob, it's like great. My 1 card got a 3 for 1. I'm having the time of my life.
You're having a blast.
Relevant for Ob Nix though, the play of flipping your Ajani with Ob Nixilis is absolutely absurd. Makes a red permanent. They're probably not going to deal with both of the red permanents. So like you get the Ob, you get the Ob token. So you have 2 red permanents. You immediately minus the real Ob, make a red permanent. Then you 0 your Ajani to deal 2 to something. Then you plus your other Ob to gain life and make them discard card or like take 2 or whatever. This card is absolutely absurd because it also like is very good with Ocelot Pride. Spoiler alert.
Well, that's like just, now that we've been through all the non-land cards in the main deck, like let's just Theorycraft a curve that involves like cards you play many copies of. Ocelot Pride into where is it? Into your Ajani, into Ob Nixilis.
So the literal dream curve of this deck is turn 1 Ocelot Pride, they like play a tap land, so you get to hit with your Ocelot Pride, make a token, play an Ajani. Then your turn 3 is sacrifice cat, like the 1/1 cat token. You can sacrifice a 2/1. It does not matter. Make an Ob, make a Ob
Second
token.
Ob squared.
Make a Ob squared. Make a flip your Ajani. So the Ajani makes a creature. The first Ob makes a creature. The second Ob can plus to get your life gain for Ocelot Pride. Then you go to end step and you have the City's Blessing by now. So you get to make a 1/1. You get to make another 1/1 off of the Ocelot Pride. You get to make another Devil because you made a Devil in the middle of that.
Which, by the way, when it dies, it deals a damage anywhere, which comes up.
Correct. And then you get to actually make, because of the City's Blessing, you get to make another Ob token.
That's how the Ocelot Pride works. You make a copy of every token you have.
Yeah,
and when
every
you,
token that came into play this turn.
When you, what's the name of it?
Casualty.
When you casualty Ob, the token that he makes in order for the card to function happens to be non-legendary, and it's a token. So Ocelot Pride's like, another one? Yeah. And it stacks too.
And the game does track with the loyalty of like the X that is paid for the casualty. A very long discussion in the judge Discord about this because it was it's come up finally.
Yeah.
And there was there used to be a conversation about Sika's Chariot. Eska's Chariot. I don't know how to say that.
I think it's Chariot. Whatever. Sure. The stupid cat wagon that they play in Pioneer.
Yeah, and it was like those were both standard legal at the same time. But like so the casualty token does remember the starting loyalty of it. So if you casualty a 1/1, then you make a copy with a 1/1. But like at the end of this turn, so this is turn 3, mind you, you have an Ocelot Pride.
Yeah, we've been rambling. We're still in the world where you've got turn 1 Pride, turn 2 Ajani, and you made a token off the Pride your second turn as well. Turn 3 casualty and Ob.
Right. I actually don't think you need the extra token to get, because it's 1, 2,
plus the Ajani
3,
token.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 with the land. So you go to end step, make a 1/1 that gets you the City's Blessing. So you don't even need you don't even need the turn 2 token. So you have exactly 10 permanents. So on turn 3 you have an Ocelot Pride, 2 2/1 cats because you're gonna make another one because you made one off of the Ajani 0. 2 devils, 3 Ob Nixilises, and a flipped Ajani. This is turn 3, by the way. I mean, like obviously this is the dream where your opponent didn't do anything to interact with you. But like now,
there are some matchups where that comes up. Like there's going to be some of the Through the Breach matchup that actually reliably will happen. If you have those cards, it'll work out.
And then you'll get blown up by an all stuff. But
yeah, but like, and that's the crazy, insane like scenario where you just like have the nuts. But this deck doesn't need the nuts to like do its thing. Any opener where you play like Guide of Souls into Amped Raptor, for instance, is an insane curve. If you go Guide of Souls, then play an Amped Raptor and stack your triggers, so you get the energy off the Guide of Souls, then the Amped Raptor triggers. You got 3 energy, meaning we've gone through every card in the deck. With 3 energy, you can cast any card in the deck.
Yeah.
And that is a turn 1, put the Guide of Souls into play, turn 2, Amped Raptor plus another thing. And even if you don't find something you want, you're at 3 energy. So turn 2, you can attack with a 3/4 flyer.
Right.
Which is like Mono Red wishes.
Yeah.
You could attack with a 3 power flyer turn 2. It's insane.
There have been like multiple games with this deck where I just go turn 1 Guide, they play a tap land, I go turn 2 Amped Raptor, hit my Ob, casualty it, and then game just like automatically ends. There's like I don't know how you're dealing with this. Like this is like kind of a slow start for my deck. And it's also over.
Yeah. Oh, really quick. The lands are kind of boring, but we will transition. This is the lands in the deck. And notably, there are a ton of fetches. There's 10 fetches, which make fatal pushes a lot better.
Yeah.
And your mana base is like, your mana base is about as bad as Jeskai's. The difference is your life total is not under duress.
Right.
So you can just afford to have like a billion shock lands.
And I'm not trying to cast any like double pips besides the Phlage Escape. I'm not trying to cast Wrathless Gods. I'm not trying to cast Counterspell, stuff like that.
The most interesting lands in your deck are probably just like Arena of Glory and Fell the Profane. Like those are interesting choices.
Yeah, I've been wanting to play 21 lands. A lot of these decks are on 22, but like my average CMC is 1.
Yeah, it's very low.
Like it's very low. So like you function, and if you like need to hit additional land drops, you can like get untap land on turn 1, probably cast 2 spells with that 1 land, and then the second land can just be a surveil land to hit your third land if you like really need to cast a 3. So I wanted the 21st land to be either Fell the Profane or Razor Lash Ambush.
Yeah, Razorgrass Ambush.
Razorgrass Ambush, yeah. Which deals 3. The back,
it's like a bad Iganjo.
Yeah, the backside of that card is a lot better than the backside of Fell the Profane, but Fell the Profane is a lot better card. Like
right.
Because Razorgrass Ambush sucks.
But I think when you play modal double face cards like this, especially in low land count decks, you kind of there's a land first.
Jegantha's not legal with this.
Yeah. Oh, it's not.
Correct. So I definitely want this to be a Razorgrass.
I might cut this, but you didn't buy Jegantha once, I don't think, in our game, Correct. So it never mattered.
That's why I didn't want to play this card. I knew I didn't want to play this card.
We may in the series have played Jegantha with Razorgrass or with Fell the Profane, and I'm glad we caught it now.
Yeah.
But spoiler alert, it never winds up mattering.
It never went into my hand.
But it probably should have been Razorgrass anyway, just because it's a white land on the other side.
And look at how many
white 1-drops you have. Yeah.
I don't really care about black. Like there's no caring about double black ever unless I want a double spell. There is caring about double white, and I just have a bunch of like early white cards that I want to cast. Yep. So yeah, I knew there was a reason I didn't want to play that.
But yeah, that's the Mardu Energy main board. It's nuts. There's really good reasons to play it. I think it's good now. Post-Nadu, I think this deck becomes like contender for top 3 decks in the format, easily.
For sure.
Before we move on to anything else, I do want to talk a little bit about your sideboard selections.
Yep.
We did talk about it. There's a Jegantha, so that's there's only 14 slots left. Jegantha's nice just because you can do the thing. You just it's mid game. You just buy your Jegantha and slam it. Attritions happen. Your opponent doesn't have the answer. That's like a 3.
It also lets me play against Blood Moon. Like Blood Moon, very specifically, like out of the red white deck is how they beat me. And I can still like cast some. Like if I get my planes, I can cast all of these cards. And then late game, I just like slam my Jegantha. We had to 1-for-1 for all of these cards, and like I just get to tap it for black because they probably don't have another removal spell.
Right, but what else do we have here? We have a lot of your sideboard's a little bit different than some of the Mardu decks that I've seen. I do like this sideboard, and some of the stuff that you need is present. Like for instance, the Sun Cleansers are here, and this is a really important card just in the metagame in general.
The Sun Cleanser is going to be insane post-Nadu ban. Like I think like energy is going to be everywhere, so having the Sun Cleanser is crazy. Just literally moving down the list, card by card.
Oh, really? Since we're going through sideboard cards, just leave them on the screen. I'm going to read some of these word for word, just because like Sun Cleanser, I don't know if you've actually looked at it. It is just 2 straight paragraphs of text.
Yeah.
Sun Cleanser is a 2-mana white Nihilist for a 1/4 human cleric. When it enters the battlefield, choose 1. Here are your options. The first one is remove all counters from target creature. It can't have counters on it for as long as Sun Cleanser remains on the battlefield. Less relevant, I'm sure it comes up in corner cases, but the real reason you're playing Sun Cleanser is paragraph number 2, which is target opponent loses all counters. Energy is counters. That player can't get counters for as long as Sun Cleanser remains on the battlefield. Card that's really good against you, Wrath of the Skies. Card that doesn't function when Sun Cleanser's in play, Wrath of the Skies.
You can kill my
Seems
tokens.
Great. Good for me, I guess. I'm still going to lose.
I have used the first mode against an orc army that was like a 5/5 before.
Yeah, it seems fine.
Yeah, it was just fine. I was copying it with the backside of a Fable, which relevantly isn't in the Mardu variant because you just have this. But like I was playing just the red white version.
Yeah,
and I have used the other half of it.
Yeah.
It's just not very good. You can use it against a Murktide.
Right.
Like which is like kind of relevant if you're playing against some crazy energy package that has Murktide in it, but like who does? You're choosing the second paragraph.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's probably the most complicated and common card in your sideboard.
Yeah.
Moving down, Graveyard Hate's really important. Your deck, like anything else, cares about graveyard-based strategies. Yeah. I think Goryo's gets a lot better post-ban too, so Nihil Spellbomb's huge.
Yeah, and I have to deal with Phlage somehow too, so like Nihil Spellbomb's very good. It's the other contender for the Graveyard Hate would be Unlicensed Hearse.
I think the biggest issue with Unlicensed Hearse is your deck is trying to get out of the way of just like dying to one well-cast Wrath of the Skies, and Unlicensed Hearse it exactly plays into that strategy, where not only does the Nihil Spellbomb crack in response so you get your value, but it replaces itself, so you're up virtual card. You're up a virtual card, I should say.
Typically, if you're playing black, you're either playing Surgical Extraction or Spellbomb. It just kind of has always slotted into the black mid-range decks as like, this is my Graveyard Hate.
Your deck's just not... Your deck it produces card advantage through the power level of your cards, and just putting your individual pieces of cardboard put more pieces of cardboard than average per card. But cards like Nihil Spellbomb replacing themselves, I think it's huge. Surgical's great, but like when you top deck Nihil Spellbomb, you can deal with a graveyard and you can keep going through your deck. When you top deck Surgical, it's like, okay, well, that's our turn. You know, it's just not that great.
Yeah, it's just okay. Then moving down, Fulminator Mage.
Spicy.
This is probably like the most fringe card that I'm playing. Again, I built my sideboard to be like a post-Nadu world situation, and I think that like one of the top contenders post-Nadu is going to be Eldrazi. I think that matchup is horrible, by the way. I
agree.
So prepare for that if you decide to play this deck. But I do think there is a world where Chthonian Nightmare and Fulminator Mage get us out. I don't think there's a world where anything else does. Right. People like are like, oh, you just play Blood Moon against them. Great. Kozilek's Return exists. Like Kozilek's Return just absolutely ruins this deck. Because like one board wipe you can rebuild with like Chthonian Nightmare.
It's Kozilek's Command, right?
No, Kozilek's Return.
Is that
the one that deals 2 to everything?
That gets around Blood Moon?
Because you can pay for a red.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you can
so they can just sit there and fairly play their mana and just Kozilek's Return. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and then at any point in the game, if they ever cast because like with one board wipe against like a deck like Eldrazi, you can kind of rebuild. You can do some Chthonian Nightmare stuff to bring back stuff from the graveyard. Very specifically, Kozilek's Return also, when they cast a fatty, deals 5 to everything before the fatty resolve. So like there's no coming back against Eldrazi if they do that. So like having something like Fulminator Mage to actually like take them off of mana, I think is a better plan. Relevantly, that and apparently Fell the Profane make Jegantha illegal. But Jegantha not very good versus the matchups where Fulminator Mage is good.
Not revealing a Jegantha if it means you have an actual out to a matchup that you probably can't win otherwise.
Right. And like it's good against Titan, which might make a resurgence. It's good against Jeskai, which might like is going to be one of the better decks in the format.
Jeskai is already good, and that matchup's so close. You do care about buying edges
for sure. And like I don't think Jegantha is that relevant versus Jeskai. It is like one of the better matchups where you like get to play your Jegantha and like actually hit like it's like a meaningful threat. I don't think that it's like that much better than being able to do like something crazy with Chthonian Nightmare or Fulminator Mage. Plus, their mana is so horrid that sometimes you can just like boobity bop a land and then they just like can never escape their Phlage for the rest of the game.
I agree. Yeah, and even agnostic of Chthonian, Fulminator Mage is like a fine way to spend 3 mana.
Yeah. And
like later in the game, it is just so nuts once you start like, okay, I'm gonna sack an Orc army, buy back Fulminator Mage, sack the Fulminator Mage to pop something else, play Chthonian Nightmare, sack the Orcish Bowmaster, because the Fulminator Mage sacks itself.
Right.
So it's easy, you get into awkward lines where you want to like double Bowmaster, wink wink, might come up, and you can't sack the Bowmaster to buy back the Bowmaster because it makes the target before the sacrifice happens.
Yeah.
So Fulminator Mage does the work of putting itself in the graveyard for you while getting you the the strip mine effect, which is insane.
For sure. Yeah, I think Fulminator Mage is good. I need to do a lot more testing, but like it's definitely the most fringe card in my sideboard.
Yeah, you probably like Bloodbraid Elf and Liliana the Veil and Death Ray Shaman too.
No. Yeah, no, I mean there's a lot of play to Fulminator Mage that I think. But yeah, that's definitely the fringe card in my sideboard. It's interesting that it came up now, but I should have put it at the bottom so I can talk about it more.
And then the next couple cards are like, well, I see one unknown entity, but we have a couple of Celestial Purge, which I'm actually playing Celestial Purge in my Jeskai sideboard. I think it's just very good right now.
Yeah, it's very good.
It deals with black and white permanents, or black and red permanents, and it exiles them, which is big game.
Phlage, you can tap the mana in response to Blood Moon. Like Phlage is the big one. You like have to deal with Phlage, and it just permanently deals with Phlage forever.
But dealing with Blood Moon's so huge.
Yeah, I've also literally just Celestial Purge a Phlage that is like dying to its own trigger, like so I don't have to deal with it later. Yeah, it's like I'm just gonna get rid of this now. But yeah, Blood Moon. The Necro Dominance deck exists, and you can like Celestial Purge and Necro Dominance very specifically before end step, so they don't get to draw the cards.
And there's also just other good permanents like Shield. Psychic Frog is a card you can deal with. It does a lot.
Yeah, Celestial Purge is pretty good. Disruptor Flute is also probably the most like one of the most sus cards on my board. I don't actually really know what it's for yet. It's just like a generic good card that I could definitely bring in a lot of different matchups. It's good against like Ruby Storm, like if you really want to actually commit sideboard cards with that. Spoiler alert, don't.
Yeah, the matchup's tough.
That matchup's better for this deck than it is for red white for sure because of this. But it's still tough. In general, it's just really bad. Flute probably could be some other stuff. It's good against like any combo deck. Like there's always somebody that's gonna show up with Twiddlestorm or somebody that's gonna show up with like
your local FNM. People just be digging cards out of their bulk and just bringing it to FNM.
It's also good against like any Cascade deck if that still exists. Like if you run into like Living End all over the place, you still want to be able to like slow them down enough that you can like survive.
100%. The card, even when it's not great, it always has some play to it. Like it's a card you can bring. It's also you're gonna run into matchups that you don't have like your sideboard guide for, and you just like 2 cards suck. You're like, well, I want to bring in Disruptor Flutes and just name a key piece of what their deck does, and that's fine.
That is actually probably where Static Prison is going to end up. Yeah, but I'll have to think more about that after we actually see what the meta shakes up after Nadu. So it's just kind of a catch-all right now. But
yeah.
And then the last 3 cards are all one-ofs. We've got Molten Collapse. Like we mentioned before, I cannot deal with big creatures. Molten Collapse can. It's also very good against like the little decks like Hammer, if that ever exists again.
Just 2 for just like Affinity. Because Molten Collapse has that. How does it work exactly? Let's just read
so
it.
if you have...
It's choose 1. If you descended this turn, which is a card, not a... you can't be a token, right? It has to be a physical card going to the bin. Choose 1. If you descended this turn, you may choose both instead. So fetching works, for instance, to descend. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. So it's literally just a Dreadbore, but it's still at sorcery speed, but it's Dreadbore. But then they added more text to Dreadbore. If you descended, you can also destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less. So in the Hammer matchup, you can hit a Hammer. In the Amulet Titan matchup, you can hit Amulet. There's just a lot of little cases where this comes out to be quite good.
Yeah, and also you don't have to descend to choose that last mode.
No, yeah,
yeah. So
you rarely will, but it will come up once in a blue moon where you just choose.
You can literally just turn 2 like, oh, you played an amulet on turn 1.
Pop it.
Oh, you played a Sigarda's Aid, which like surprise red black base decks are not very good at dealing with.
No.
So you actually get to deal with it in Molten Collapse. This card's insane against Hammer. If that deck ever resurges, this card's like absolutely nothing against them.
But, and I want to talk about this card before this card because this card's the most interesting.
Yeah. So then one of the other one-ofs is just 4th Fatal Push. Like I mentioned while we were actually talking about the deck, I think creature removal is at like an all-time high in Modern right now, and being able to like 1-for-1 Ocelot Prides, Goddess Souls, kill the Ajani before they're able to do something with the token and stuff like that.
And it kills all types of stuff. Like if the Frog deck is good, it just kills Frog.
It kills Frog.
You know, is it Wizards is good, it just kills Tamiyo, it just kills Snapcaster. It's Fatal Push. You guys know what Fatal Push does? It does what it says it does all the time. And in a deck like this, which is a 3-color deck, which is playing 10 fetches, getting the Revolt to trigger is like super easy. It's no problem.
Aren't very many like 4-drops that you're targeting in the format, but like it also like Revolt targets Phlage, which like never feels good, but like you have to deal with the Phlage when it's out. But like post-Nadu world, I could see Yawgmoth.
I think Shielder gets better post-Nadu, and then Yawgmoth.
And then Yawgmoth comes back as like the ex facto best creature deck in the format, like creature combo deck. So like it answers Yawg, it answers Shielder, it answers Urza. Super playable card.
Urza, mono blue Urza,
yeah.
And then finally,
but yeah, it's Fatal Push.
You got a 15th card that is like Fulminator Mage, straight out of 2016.
Yeah, it's straight out of 2016. Kolaghan's Command has been like super fringe playable in Modern for a very long time. Scam always like had like 1 in his sideboard, maybe 2.
This is important. Most of you know what it does, but on the off chance you don't know what K command does, not Cozy's command, the original K command. It is a choose 2, like many commands, and its cost is Rakdos in 1, so 3 mana. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Solid. That's worth like 1 to 2 mana, but it's a modal spell, so you get 2. Target player discards a card, so it's like a burglar rat effect, but at instant speed. That's also a mode on Funeral Charm, one of my little pet pre-modern cards. Don't worry about it. Kolaghan's Command deals 2 damage to any target, and then when I skipped, destroy target artifact. You can get any 2 from all the options on K Command. That is incredibly flexible.
Yeah, I mean, like the card is just like very good in grindy matchups. It's so good to be able to like return the best creature in your graveyard, and if you get to either kill a creature, maybe destroy like a random artifact that's just like hanging out on the board. Most relevantly, like this card is cast during your opponent's draw step when they're like they have no cards in hand. You're playing the Mirage Mirror and you just go like return best creature from my graveyard. You discard your card, so you're like skipping your turn. And I just got the best creature out of my yard.
A lot of people don't understand that like cards like that. It plays a lot like Archmage's Charm in many of the situations where if you don't have anything specific to do, like there's no specific artifact you need to hit, or there's no specific thing that needs to take 2 damage, it's level 0 mode of just like, hey, lose a card, I'm gonna get a card. Well, that's +2. You know, you go +2. You're going up a resource, your opponent's going down a resource. So it's physically the same thing as like casting a divination or in Modern Archmage's Charm, where you just draw 2, but you lose the card. It's the same thing, and that's kind of its floor. It really just goes up from there, which is insane.
Every once in a while, you get like a kill a creature, blow up an unlicensed hearse, which is like just like
it's nuts.
Like I think the most relevant like modes are definitely like pick up a creature, discard a card in the like the control matchups. The control matchups that are playing a bunch of rats, like the Jeskai deck, you just like need something that can 2-for-1, because like a lot of your cards do 2-for-1, but like they're not a 2-for-1 that actually matters. Like if I make 2 creatures off of Ajani, it's just like cool, that just gets wrath.
Right.
If I make 2 creatures off of Orcish Bowmaster, if I get 2 creatures off of Amped Raptor, like a lot of the like random, this is a 2-for-1, like Phlage, like stuff like that, just doesn't matter versus Jeskai. Like the 2-for-1s that I'm getting don't actually produce a 2-for-1. Whereas Kolaghan's Command is actually like a
always
clean,
a 2-for-1.
I'm going to pick up the best card in my graveyard, which is normally Orcish Bowmaster.
Also being instant speed is just gigantic.
Right, you do it on end step, they have to counter that because you're going to get too much card advantage, then you go and tap and get to resolve your Chthonian Nightmare or Ob or something like that.
That usually just wins you the game on its own.
Yeah.
But yeah, the deck seems insane. Especially if you're trying to figure out a deck to play post-Nadu, this is a really good option. And also if you're just like, if you already own Boros Energy and want to buy more modern staples because you like the format, because the black cards in here for the most part are just staples staples of the format. And you want to play kind of an inherently more interesting deck. Not that Boros isn't hard to play and interesting in its own right, but it's a different thing. You're really trying to edge Blood Moon, and you're trying to like all of your play skill goes into like how far do I extend? What's the best way to set up attacks? How can I posture and position myself to be in the best spot possible? This is just, I think, it maximizes a little bit more on fun, and it definitely maximizes the amount of rectangles you can put into play, which I'm always into.
Yeah, you put a lot of rectangles into play in this deck. Spoiler alert, you can put 10 obs into play on one turn.
Yeah, and then you can, right in the middle of recording the video with your good buddy Adrian, you text your other buddy Alex to gloat. We're not even done recording the video yet. It
was a lot of fun.
It's been an awesome night. It's very late here in the Neon Mushroom studio. But yeah, TLDR, play Mardu Energy if you're looking for a deck. If you want to see some gameplay, guess what? We did that first. There's 3 fresh hot games coming at you from the with this Mardu deck being the centerpiece of the matchups. And do you got anything else, Travis?
No.
Yes.
Ob Nixilis is the truth.
Ob Nixilis is the truth.
Is the truth.
Thank you so much for watching. Look forward to the games, and as always, ban Ocelot Pride.